What's up, guys? Welcome to day 11. As we keep exploring the relationship Laban and his between Laban and Jacob. But before we get started, I would like to read chapter 10, verse 12 from the book of Proverbs, where it says, "Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers over all wrongs." Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers over all wrongs. And so yeah, today we will be in the mid chapter of 30. So yeah, let's get started. Soon after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Please release me so I can go home to my own country. Let me take my wives and children, for I have earned them by serving you, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I have worked for you." "Please listen to me," Laban replied. "I have become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. Tell me how much I owe you. Whatever it is, I'll pay it." Jacob replied, "You know how hard I've worked for you, and how your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You have little indeed before I came, but your wealth has increased enormously. The Lord has blessed you through everything I've done. But now, what about me? When can I start providing for my own family?" "What wages do you want?" Laban asked again. Jacob replied, "Don't give me anything, just do this one thing, and I'll continue to tend and watch over your flocks. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted, along with all the black sheep. Give these to me as my wages. In the future, when you check on the animals you have given me as my wages, you'll see that I have been honest. If you find in my flock any goats without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I have stolen them from you." "All right," Laban replied. It will be as you say." By that very day, Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted or had white patches, and all the black sheep. He replaced them in the care of his excuse me. He replaced them in the care of his own son, who took them a 3 days' journey from where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took some fresh branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees, and peeled off strips of bark, making white streaks on them. Then he placed these peeled branches in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, for that was where they mated. But when they mated in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated those lambs from Laban's flock, and as mating time, he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or black. This is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's. Whenever the stronger females were ready to mate, Jacob would place the peeled branch in the watering troughs in front of them. Then they would mate in front of the branches. But he didn't do this with the weaker ones, so the weaker lambs belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy, with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys. Chapter 31. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob had robbed our father of everything, they said. He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense. And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude toward him. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your father and grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you." So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, "I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I have worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times, but God has not allowed him to do me any harm. For if he said, 'The speckled animals will be your wages,' the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, 'The striped animals will be your wages,' then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me." One time during the mating season, I had a dream and saw that the male goats mating with the females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of God said to me, "Jacob," and I replied, "Yes, here I am." The angel said, "Look up and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now get ready and leave the country and return to the land of your birth." Rachel and Leah responded, "That's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women. And after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth God has given you from our father legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you." So Jacob put his wives and children on camels and he drove all of his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he had acquired in Paddan Aram and set out for the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away, shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban that they were leaving. So Jacob took all of his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill of Gilead. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled, so he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night, God has appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and told him, "I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone." Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead, and he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. "What do you mean by deceiving me like this?" Laban demanded. "How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music accompanied by tambourines and harps. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You have acted very foolishly. I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me. Appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. I can understand your feeling that you must go, and your intense longing for your father's home. But why have you stolen my gods?" "I rushed away because I was afraid," Jacob answered. "I thought I would take your daughters from me by force. But as for your gods, See if you can find them and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours. I will give it back. But Jacob didn't know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then to Leah's, and then the tents of the two wives, but he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent, but Rachel had taken the household idols and hid them in her camel saddle, and she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, "Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period." So Laban continued his search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry and he challenged Laban. "What's my crime?" he demanded. "What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us, before our relatives, for all to see. Let them judge between us. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. In all that time, your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked for 14 years earning your 2 daughters, and then 6 more years for your flock, and you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you." Then Laban replied to Jacob, "These women are my daughters, these children are my grandchildren, and these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant. You and I, it will be a witness to our commitment." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, gather some stones. So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat beside the piles of stones to eat a covenant meal. To commemorate the event, Laban called the place Jagar Sahadutha, which means witness pile in Aramaic, and Jacob called it Galilee, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, This pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today. This explains why it is called Galilee, witness pile, but it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, "May the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep our covenant, or we keep this covenant when we are out of God's or out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you marry other wives, God will see to it, even if no one else does. He is a witness to this covenant between us." "See this pile of stones," Laban continued, "and see this monument I have set between us. They stand between us as witness of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never has these stones or these monuments to harm me. I call on the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of grandfather Nahor to serve you as a judge between us. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there on the mountain and invited everyone to covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning, and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. So that is the end for today. But we got through we only got through a chapter, so but yeah, there seems to be so much tension going on between Laban and Jacob. So as we go back, we can see how Jacob asked Laban to release him so that he may return home. But Laban, being very stubborn, asking what Jacob wants, how much Jacob wants to get paid. But Jacob doesn't want to get paid, he just wants to go home. And this is a perfect example of Laban using Jacob, because I don't think Laban has much respect or affection for for a son-in-law. I think he just uses Jacob as a way for him to get rich and stuff. And then he tries to keep Jacob as long as he can, but obviously that's not gonna happen. So they made a deal between Jacob and Laban. They made a deal that Laban can pay Jacob's wages by giving him the spotted, the streaked, and the speckled or the black sheep as a way to say they are equal and stuff. But there's in a condition that if Laban sees any specked or non-specked perfect lambs in Jacob's flock, then Jacob will say that he stole Laban's lamb. But Laban tries to do everything he can to keep Jacob, decides to go into his flock on his own and carry out all the spotted and specked sheep to his sons, which caused Laban's sons to get really jealous of Jacob, saying how that Jacob seems to be the favorite even though he's not even part of the family and stuff. And then that caused a really deep conflict between Laban and Jacob, because they are constantly butting heads with each other, always fighting and stuff, having conflicts. And Jacob kind of felt tired of being used and mistreated, and God told Jacob to basically get out of there, to go back home. And so in Genesis chapter 31, it really talks a lot about Jacob, how God plays into favor with Jacob by producing the sheep that he can't have and stuff. But yeah, I found it really interesting how in verse 14 of chapter 31, where it says Rachel and Leah responded, "That's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women." I mean, I guess it's verse 15, but it's just a big signet, like big phrase to describe maybe Leah and Rachel despises their father because of what he did to them by forcing them to get married with Jacob, to sleep with him and stuff. And so they don't really care what happens with their relationship, what happens to them with the relationship of their father. They just want to be done with him too. So yeah, that's, and then Laban being nothing, he's nothing but a hypocrite. Once he caught up with Jacob, he asks him, "What do you mean by deceiving me like this? How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? Why did you deceive me?" It's like the last time I checked, you deceived Jacob. You treated your daughters horribly. Doing things behind all of their backs. It's like Laban should take a break and say like, maybe I've done a lot of those things that I'm about to question Jacob. So instead of looking like a hypocrite an idiot, between hypocrite and an idiot, he should have thought about those questions to himself, which obviously he didn't because he wants to prove right and stuff. And so he keeps on making it sound like, "Oh, Jacob, if you hadn't told me, then things would have worked out." But it's just the fact how like he changed Jacob's wages 10 times within the 20 years of working for him. It's like, if Laban can't even keep the simplest promises, what makes you think that he has a change of heart by saying, "Oh, I would have let my daughters go with you," and with everything else? But yeah, it's also interesting how Rachel decides to steal her father's god idol. It's like, it makes me think, oh, maybe Laban's family does not worship the same god as Jacob's, which is possibly true, but yeah, it's just interesting how like Rachel took it. Maybe she's not fully ready to let go of all the, I don't think she's ready to let go of her old life, so she wants to bring something that's gonna help her remember and still helps her to practice her old life, which, to be honest, that's not a very healthy thing to do, but we can't get really homesick, so we want to drag things along with us, which is, it's good that you could do that, but at the same time you have to be careful that the things that you're gonna bring with you is not gonna harm your way of being able to live out a fulfilling life by meeting new people, by talking to new people and stuff. And so yeah, then Laban and Jacob made a treaty with each other about not hurting each other or their herdsmen hurting each other. And so yeah, that's basically what I kind of really observed from this chapter. It just feels like Laban is a hypocrite, and he wants to basically use Jacob to get wealthy, because he isn't that wealthy when Jacob got there. But once Jacob got there, he just got a whole lot more wealthy. And how Rachel's action of taking her father's house idol, god idol, was very questionable. maybe she isn't fully ready to let go of her old life, which we can all relate to. And then finally Jacob was able to sign a treaty with Laban, saying that they can be on a peaceful term if nobody goes about hurting each other. And so yeah, that will end for today. Laban, oh yeah, another thing is like Laban has to realize that God does not want him to be stay connected to his daughter and to his to son-in-law. So he has to realize that that's a closed door that he has to move on. And like sometimes for us, we can be very irrational with our decisions because we are not ready to let go, or we're not ready to let go of the door that God is closing. We want to try to sneak back in through our old lives, but once God closes the door, it's over. You just have to trust. We have to just trust that He can make something good out of the closed doors. And so, with the theme of closed doors, I would like to read Revelation chapter 30, or chapter 3, verse 8, where it says, where it says, I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. It's just to show that to be able to keep the door open, to be able to keep the door that God has opened for you, you have to learn to honor Him when you walk through those doors, because that's all that matters. Nobody could stop you from walking with God. Nobody's able to shut the door that God has opened for you. And so may you go and walk with God today and reflect on the doors that God has either opened for you or has closed for you. And so go walk with God today.